Am I the a-hole for telling my kid the real reason me and her father split? So, me and my ex-husband split about a year ago. He had been cheating for over half the amounts of years we had been together, and I caught him in bed with a man and a woman. He was bisexual. I divorced him soon after, despite all the pleading, and we went our separate ways. I've tried to briefly explain without outing him to my daughter, 15 female, why we are splitting. My intention was never to turn her away from her dad or make her hate him. We had originally stated that we would try to keep this as brief and shelter our daughter from this harsh time as much as possible. But lately, she has been very hateful and disrespectful towards me, and for the longest time I couldn't understand why. Until she had gotten into a fit and told me that I ruined her life, and if I just kept my legs closed, she would have still had her family back together. This shocked me. At first I was angry, but then I was confused as to where she got this information from. I'd asked her before, and she said that she wasn't going to talk to me when I was the one who ruined her life. I called her father and asked him if he knew anything about this, and if he had told anyone I was the one who screwed up. But he dismissed everything and said he had no clue where she had gotten that information from. Now I was really confused, and back to angry that she said this to me, but I chose to wait until I knew what was going on. I tried talking to her multiple times, but she continued to shut me down and say that I ruined her life. I'm a terrible mom, that I chose sex over her family, and I'm the only one to blame for not having a mom and dad together. I reached out to all family and friends to see if they had said anything that would lead to this as well. Now, I'm not proud of this, but I saw a message come up on my daughter's phone and I picked at it. The message read, "I know, sweetie, just 3 more days," and it was from her dad. I opened the phone to see tons of messages of them two going back and forth, with her telling him that she was sick of being here. She didn't want to be near me after I did that. She couldn't believe I would cheat. She's disgusted by me. And her father just agreed and consoled her. I asked him multiple times if he knew anything about her behavior, and he said no, and he put the blame on me for no reason. So I called him once again after that and messaged him about it, when he didn't respond and got left unread. So, I sat my daughter down and told her that I know she's angry at me, and that I tried to shelter her from this and keep her as far away from this as possible, but I won't be held accountable for actions that weren't mine. I left any and all questions that I couldn't say without her perspective out. She was shocked and apologized for her behavior to me. This wasn't some petty revenge to get back at him, but I can't have my relationship with hers ruined either. I'm now getting blasted by all of my family and his for doing this. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. And you should screenshot and keep those messages of him turning her against you. That is illegal in many places, as is parental alienation. Also, keep any messages where he admitted he was the one who cheated, and where you agreed to not discuss it with her. Next, I'd consult a lawyer in case it takes this farther. Oh man, I actually get furious when the cheaters say their partner cheated, and try to get their kids to hate the faithful parent. He's so trash he's not worth anything. Sweetie, just 3 more days. Instant vomit. My ex-husband did this, also claimed I was the dangerous one. I had planned not to tell my son anything until he was an adult or at least late teens. I had planned to go with, sometimes, no matter how hard people try, it's best for them not to be together. This is what's best for us and you, because we couldn't live together lovingly and respectfully. But when my son came home with all of what happened turned around on me, I was cornered into sharing the truth. When I felt conflicted about what to believe, I had him use his critical thinking skills. For example, X is much stronger than I am, and I'm not physically capable of doing any of what he had done to me, and promised I wouldn't be upset with him if he didn't believe me. He thought through the facts and came to the correct conclusion. Not the a-hole honestly reads as the appropriate and good choice in a super cruddy situation. His manipulating and lying to get himself seen in the best light, after being the one to ruin things, mark him as one to not really sympathize with. She already was no longer being sheltered from it when you explain things. And at that point, knowing what really went on is just the best position to be in. I hope the family also have the full story too. Yeah, me too. But as for the family, I'm not sure what they do or don't know. Some of it is his family too, so I can't say much to them. Are you able to talk to them about it to make sure they know what really happened? Or like draft some kind of written account of what happened on your side as neutrally but true as possible? If he is going behind your back to turn your daughter against you, it wouldn't be surprising if it extended further out. Heck, sometimes just being the first to paint a messy situation is grounds to bend it a good bit in your own favor. and people take advantage of that sometimes. I could, but that's a lot of people, and very defined and argumentative people from my experience. So I'm just trying to take whatever energy I have to argue with them about it, because I know they won't believe me, or they will have an issue with something. Do you have proof he cheated? Because you're going to need it. You're going to drag your daughter into this mess. You need to talk to your lawyer ASAP. Not the a-hole. He's on a smear campaign against you, so you need all the proof you can get. I have the messages, and proof of all the money he spent on hotel with other people that he's admitted to. I'm not sure where this will go as of now. Hopefully I won't need it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my boyfriend to come with me on a trip since he was about to ask his parents to pay for all expenses? My 20 female friends from uni and I have been planning to go on a trip next March since the beginning of this year. Since 2 of my friends are bringing their partners along with them, I've asked my boyfriend 19 male if he wanted to come as well, under the condition that he earned the money himself to cover his expenses, including plane tickets and accommodations, which had come to be around 5,000 Canadian dollars. I made this request months ago because I knew he was going to ask his parents for the money to cover the expenses, which they had always given him. Like when his brother asked for $3,000 for a gaming setup and when he asked for $2,000 so he could have a TV in his room. His family isn't super wealthy, but they're well-to-do, and his mom has tried to ask him to try and get a part-time job during school breaks, to which he has always said he'll try, but ended up never getting one. I grew up in a household where we often had to get by, and thus has been working multiple part-time jobs since I was 16, and have been trying to urge him to get a job with his mother. A couple of days ago, he told me he wants to go on a trip with me, which shocked me, as I questioned how he was going to raise $5,000, since we still have classes and semester break doesn't start till late Feb. And he told me he asked his parents, and they agreed to help pay for his expenses. I told him no, I would not be allowing him to go on the trip with me, and refused to share our itinerary document with him, since I made it clear I didn't want his parents to pay for his expenses, and established that he would have to earn his keep. But he told me that this was something I should have zero say over, since I was never in charge of how his parents' money. We had a fight over this, and he called me a controlling, manipulative freak. Before ranting to my friends' partners who were going on this trip with us, we're all part of the same friend group. They all agreed I was a little out of line, and should have no say over how he raised the funds needed. I don't want to rant to my other friends about this, since I don't want them to think badly of me or my boyfriend. But it really made me confused as I have no clue if I'm the one at fault here. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. Your boyfriend has obvious entitlement issues. You're the a-hole because you're leveraging a vacation to make a point and police your boyfriend's behavior. If his lack of job bothers you, break up. But don't be in a relationship and then humiliate and exclude somebody into becoming the person you actually want to date. Is Opie's mother not a healthy relationship dynamic at all? He acts like he needs a mother. I think Opie was smart. She now knows how lazy and entitled he is, and what a poor life partner he would make. I'm going with you're the a-hole. Not because you insisted on him paying for himself, as it sounds like self-sufficiency is important to you, but because after all these months of knowing the kind of person he is, you were still dating him. If self-sufficiency isn't enough to go on a trip, it's not enough to be a boyfriend. It sounds like you are trying to fix him. Stop that, and move on to other guys who aren't broken. If you don't want to date an entitled lazy guy, break up with him. Maybe life will be different for him after school, but it's a hard thing to change while in school full-time. Also, a girlfriend trying to train a boyfriend into being self-sufficient is not the foundation of a relationship. He'll do it or he won't. This trip isn't the mechanism to make it happen. Entitled and lazy? He's 19, goes to college and his parents are well off. Stop judging men based on the value they bring like they're some cash cows. He's a kid for Pete's sake. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my husband to go to his ex's funeral? I'll admit I'm biased right off the bat. I couldn't stand her. I call her his ex to myself and others. He called her his friend. We're all in our early 40s and she died recently of aneurysm. I've been with him 10 years now, but he'd known her for 20 plus. The way he tells it is that they were friends in college, decided to date, got married, then realized they weren't a great couple and decided to just be friends. All that happened years before I met him. He was clear early on that she was important. A couple months into dating, It came up that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He explained the above to me, saying she was one of his closest friends and that it was purely platonic. I expressed some discomfort at him being so close to an ex, and he told me, "That's fine. If you have a serious issue with it, let me know now and save us some time, because I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years, and she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing." When we were engaged, I asked again. He gave me this perplexed look and asked, "Why would us getting married affect my friendships?" I sucked it up and went along. I resented every moment of knowing her, especially when we had to be social. She understood some part of him I couldn't. Her husband was friends with mine as well, so it's not like I could use him as an angle. They'd have lunch with the ex, they'd go to their geeky movies, and whatever. The few times I brought it up, he said, "We had this conversation before. You had your chance to back out." She died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly, I was relieved. He was working with her husband on funeral planning when I told him, "You don't think you're going, do you?" My argument summed up. She's dead, so she's not a factor anymore. He doesn't get to use his "she's my friend" excuse since she doesn't exist anymore. He had his cry for a couple days. He gets to be done with mourning her already. There's no need for him to go to her funeral, since I wouldn't want her at his. He was the angriest I've ever seen him when I told him that, replying that he'll be going no matter how I feel, and that he's willing to burn this to the freaking ground while holding up his wedding band. Besides you, she was the closest friend in my life. Him, her husband, and my sisters are calling me an insensitive a-hole over this, all saying that there's no romantic aspect to their relationship and that I'm heartless. Her husband went as far as calling me a ghoul for how I've reacted. I never felt their relationship was appropriate, and I hid that for years because I wanted to be with my husband. Now that she's gone, I don't feel I should have to hide it anymore and can speak freely. Am I the a-hole for just wanting him to be done with her and for him to not attend a funeral? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. When he divorces you, he probably won't have to explain his friendship with you to the next woman. Because, seriously, who'd want to stay friends with a woman who treated you like this? How heartless. I really hope they don't have any children together, so when he divorces OP, he can cut contact for good. If they had children, OP would have mentioned that after she got pregnant. She again tried to convince him that he needed to give up his friendship. If she doesn't exist anymore, why are you still so jealous of her? He can't even leave you for her now, so I think it's time you got past it. You're the a-hole. You can speak freely, and you can leave after finding out how heartless you actually are. Fair enough. I bet he will leave her over this anyway, even when the ex is dead. 'Cause damn did you prove to be a crappy person. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to give my adult stepdaughter her own room in our new home? I, 35 female, have been with my husband, 43 male James, for 3 years, married for 18 months. He has a 21-year-old daughter from his previous marriage, Jane. Jane and I get along well, but she was already away at college by the time her dad and I got serious, so we don't have a very close relationship. James and I are looking to purchase a home together because our current home is not going to work for me in the long term due to some disabilities. We've found a few we liked, and we were discussing our options when I referred to the third room as the guest room. James asked what I meant, because that would be Jane's room. This led to an argument between us, because I don't think Jane needs a dedicated bedroom in our new home. She's renting her own place now, with roommates year-round, no more student housing. And she still has her room at her mom's house. Of course, she's always welcome to visit, and if she were to ever need to move back in, then we could adjust at a time. But as it stands, she is an adult moving on to the adult portion of her life, and it seems silly to dedicate a room for her when she'll use it for 2 weeks out the year max. My husband is upset with me still, but I really don't think his position is that strong. She's a grown-up now. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As you say, she's a grown woman with her own grown-up home. Why on earth would she need her own room in your new house? Tell your husband to cut the umbilical cord. I wonder if this is less about the umbilical cord and more about feeling some competition with the ex who still has a room for her adult daughter. This is it. Mom is home because mom has a room for her. Not the a-hole. I'm astonished at people calling you an a-hole and suggesting your daughter should get to decorate a room in your house which she doesn't live at. If my father tried to allocate me a room like this, I'd find it deeply weird. Have you got any indication about her feelings on this madness? We haven't spoken to her about it, but she usually prefers staying at her mom's anyway, so I would guess that she won't be all that interested. Maybe this is your husband wanting to keep a door open, so to speak, but it feels like a futile and somewhat wasteful gesture. In any case, this sounds like an issue he needs to work through, which is creating a problem for you. Only advice that could be given is to stand firm but speak through it with him. No a-holes here, but I strongly suggest you call the third bedroom Jane's room, at least for now. Moving into a new home is stressful enough. Your husband doesn't want to feel like he's losing his old house and his daughter, which is exactly what he's going to worry about if you start using the Jane can just stay at her mom's house logic. If Jane had her own room in the old house, then for now let her have her own room in the new house. As time goes on, when everyone settles in and your husband realizes how sporadically Jane visits, then he'll be able to accept the fact that Jane is an adult and the new house isn't her home. Not because she never had a bedroom to begin with, but because Jane grew up into a woman with her own home and her own space. If you let the process happen naturally, it'll still happen, but you won't look like the mean stepmother pushing out his daughter.